So, Susan, I'm going to switch to English now so you know what I'm talking about and saying about you before you get up here. That might be pretty good, I guess. So I've been very, very excited about welcoming you up here on stage. You've done hard work for so many years for youngsters and adults with ADHD. I've followed you personally for 12 years. But last night I decided there's another big search machine that knows a lot more than I do about you. That's Google. So I decided that I wanted to figure out what has Susan really been doing her whole life for ADHD. And if you Google Susan Young and ADHD, make a number in your head right now and guess how many hits do you think there are. Make a guess inside your head. And when you've done that, I can tell you it's higher. And it's even higher than that. It's more than 4 million. Yes, wow, right? So I guess I can say you've done an impressive amount of work for this field. And you're not stoppable. You're going to keep on. And I had the pressure of having dinner with you last night, and all the ideas just keeps on coming. So I guess we could put you on stage up here for the next 10 years, 20 years probably. Susan, I would like to welcome you to Denmark and welcome you to speak here for us.
Thank you. I'm going to be talking about the R&R2ADHD program, which, as many of you know already, that has been part of a large evaluation led by the Danish Social Services. I'm not even going to try to say it in Danish because I just struggle with that word. I can't say it. But anyways, I do try every time, as Lisbeth knows. But anyway, so R&R2, what is it? Camilla asked me to give you a flair and a feel for this program, and here it is on the left here. It's for ADHD youth and adults, and part of the study also included the Young Bremen program, but it didn't feature so much in the study as R&R2 did, because the success of that was that we didn't need to move people on so much to the individual treatment arms. So, well, it started off as reasoning and rehabilitation. It's a revised edition of the reasoning and rehabilitation program, which was a structured pro-social competence training program. And I revised it and made it more applicable for young people with ADHD, for youths and adults for age 13 plus. We don't mention ADHD in it though, so it's suitable for people with symptoms associated with ADHD. And in fact, we've run it very successfully in people with personality disorder without ADHD, with borderline personality disorder. The original program has got a very strong evidence base. It was developed initially for delivery in prison services or in correctional facilities. And that showed a 14 to 21% reduction in reoffending. So it has got a real good evidence base. And then after I had adjusted it for youths and adults with ADHD, it was stripped out back. It still includes some antisocial elements that are addressed, but it's a lot more about pro-social competence, and so it's suitable for people who are in the criminal justice system, but also, and we have a lot of evidence for it now, for being run outside of the criminal justice and more in the community setting and people with ADHD. It's 15 sessions, it's a CBT group, and so they attend the group and then they have like an individual PAL session, a coaching session, and that person is a bridge between the group and the outside world to give them, because we don't want people just to do really well in a group and then go home and right, I've done that. We want them to do well in the group, and then they need to be mentored and supported and helped to transfer the skills they've learned into the group into their everyday lives. And it also comes with a 3-session booster program. It consists of 5 modules. One which addresses attention, memory, impulsiveness, and planning. This is the neurocognitive executive kind of dysfunction module. Second module is all about problem solving, to help people to learn a process to engage in a consequential thinking process, to think about making good choices, and when they act them out, to act them out and do them in an appropriate way to avoid and manage conflict. There's an emotional control module, which is all about managing feelings of anger and anxiety and generally emotional lability. There's a social skills and values module, which addresses non-verbal as well as verbal behaviours, social perspective taking, and empathy, being able to think about how to take the perspective of other people and empathise with their difficulties. There's a critical reasoning module, which is all about decision-making skills, moral reasoning and rationalisation. The whole programme takes a perspective of the person has a problem, not the person is the problem, which is often how people with ADHD feel. That's what they've learned about themselves all their lives. I'm the problem. No, they're not. They have a problem. And if you have a problem, you can apply problem-solving techniques and solution-focused strategies to deal with it. So it consists of a program manual with 15 sessions. There's a program handbook, gives you lots of information about it. There's a workbook that they get, that they work in. The PAL, who's the individual who meets them between sessions, has a PAL's guide. It's full of power presentations, and it includes movies and things to discuss. There's a training DVD that supplements the training. It doesn't replace it. There's a 3-session booster program and a variety of training techniques. I've trained a lot of people in Denmark to deliver this program, and I trained 3 instructors who now can train Danish people to deliver the program. They can't train instructors, only I can do that. But there are 3 people in Denmark who are instructors who can train other people to deliver the program. And one of them is here and with us. She's a fantastic instructor, got absolute confidence in her, Trina Bark. So Trina, will you stand up and say hello so people know what you look like, this instructor? So if you have any questions about it, then and I'm not around later when I've left, you can also always ask Trina. So this is an example of the manual, what you have. So, you know, because it's structured and it's very supportive. So, like, you know, when the text is indented, that's what you would say. Then there's information that goes back, that's telling you look at the flip chart. And then this is telling you that there's a PowerPoint coming up. So it's very sort of structured and supportive. So we, in the program, in each session, we don't say, today we're going to talk about impulse control difficulty, or today we're going to talk about remembering things, because you run the risk of people sitting there and saying, well, that's it, I might as well go now because I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem. I can control my impulses, no problem at all. I'm not going to sit here and listen to all this stuff, you know, like, so obviously if they're motivated to be present, then it's different. But so we demonstrate the problem. There's something there that starts usually with an exercise that demonstrates the problem. So with the impulse control one, we demonstrate the problem with the thumbs up exercise. So what I want you to do, I'm going to show you this, and I want you to do it. So can you put your cups down, please? When I say run along, I want you to run along. When I say thumbs up, I want you to put your thumbs up. When I say thumbs down, put your thumbs down. Okay? Good, so run along, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs down. Run along, thumbs up, run along, thumbs down, thumbs up, run along, thumbs up, thumbs up. Whoa, okay. Some of you didn't take your medication today. So we demonstrate, right, okay, so that's called impulse control. Okay, not being able to control your impulses. And so we're going to teach you some skills that might help with that kind of thing, because that's a fun game, but that could be a problem with more serious consequences at other times. So that's how we go into it. And the whole game, I call it a game, the program engages you like that, and it has games and it's full of things, because I was very aware that if we introduce a program that's a bit different, that people enjoy, Bob wouldn't have it called therapy. Bob called it, and I wasn't allowed to put on the front, oh, it's not Institute of Psychiatry, where I worked at the time. So, oh no, you can't have psychiatry on there. You've got to put he said, where did you get your PhD from? I said, University of London. He said, put that, University of London. Then they think, it's a university program. I'm on a university program. We don't want anything about psychiatry or psychology, anything like that on there. So it's about engaging people and them wanting to come. And we do that by having some fun. But of course, there are some pretty serious bits in there and things to address. And there's some very interesting things where we sort of, capture their interest. in some of the exercises and discussion points. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. We talk about emotional control and in the social skills modules. And with that, we teach people to identify early warning signals. We want them, and we do this by saying things don't just happen, you know, like take anger. You don't suddenly get to a stage and you just explode. Like, that's how it feels to them. But actually, lots of things happen before they explode. And it's about recognizing those things. So we teach them to pay attention to what they notice about themselves inside. And we also teach them to pay attention to the environment, what they observe outside in the environment. Because often we know a problem's happening or occurring by observing the environment. You know, like by observing it, I could always, you knew when you were in trouble when you were a kid by the look on your mother's face when you came in from school, or by the tone of her voice, or even by what she said. I've always been called Susie since I was born, but my dad always called me Susie. But if I was in trouble, my mum called me Susan. Susan, like, you know, oh God, I remember running and locking myself in the toilet once, and I wouldn't come out until Dad said it was okay. But so it's about, you know, paying attention to what you observe in the cues, right? But also paying attention to things within yourself, because there are lots of signs that anger is building up. And so we do this by, you know, it's just like a big jumble of emotion, and we do this by separating this out. What's going through your mind? What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? What's physically going on in your body? Perhaps the tension goes, perhaps the heart starts to go. And what happens about what you do, your behavior, when you're starting to get into an interaction, and it escalates anger. It gets worse and worse, but you might get closer to somebody. You start to get, your voice raises, you start to get sharper. People might pointing, you know, the space is closed in. Then you start to feel hot. All these things. And by separating them all out, they realize that this is a process and that the things are happening earlier on. And if they can identify the early warning signal, one of them that they're most likely to have, that they're most likely to recognize in themselves, that gives them the opportunity to intervene earlier in the process, rather than at the point when they've just hit someone, or they've just smashed a door, or they've just smashed something and walked out, slammed a door. In terms of looking in the environment, we teach them body language. We say, they get really interested in this. I'm going to teach you to read body language. And they do get interested in this. So we show them these pictures. We say, so how do you think this girl's feeling? Someone shout out. Happy. Good. Yeah, she's smiling and she looks happy. You can see nice teeth, and, you know. What about here? Someone at the back, shout out. Shout at me. Surprised, yes. What? And, you know, with surprise, everything's open, isn't it? Like the face is all open, wide. Oh, surprise. Good. What about this one? Annoyed. Anything else? Bored. Yeah. If you were sitting opposite this girl on a tube on the underground, would you engage in a conversation with her? No, you don't. Right. So something about it, yeah. So it doesn't matter what it is, but actually, there's no such thing as one emotion or one. But it's about what they think. Some people say she's staring them down. You know, like it's about how they would respond to somebody who's showing this sort of look. It's actually, this one was low mood, being low. What about this? Sorry? Skeptic. What else? Why do you think disgust? What's she doing? Do you see that the face is slightly back? Yeah, a little bit back. And if we caught her just a minute later, maybe her nose would be a bit starting, you know, the nose. What about this one? Come on. Playful. Does anyone disagree? This is annoyed, angry, but she's such a pretty girl. When she's being angry, she looks a bit playful. She's a little, and this is a great one. This was a gift because it's about, you know, if you approach this girl and because you think she's being playful and in fact she's annoyed, if you've got that wrong, then you can get that seriously wrong and there could be serious consequences. So, you know, because if you look at her and think, oh, she's saying, hello, big boy, you know, you might have that very, very wrong to the fact that she's just don't come near me and leave me alone. All right. So this one was really very good. But in terms of body language, if we look, you can see, look, just look at her eyebrows. I'm going to flip through them again and see, like, so like this one, if this is sort of annoyed, look, the eyebrows are sort of slightly down at the top of her nose. Disgust, the same. These are sort of blanker, higher, right high, and flatter. You can tell a lot actually just by looking at people's eyebrows. And we discuss these faces in quite a lot of detail. And then we get them to rehearse. We get them to rehearse it as well. We give them cards and they pick a card and they read an emotion and they have to act out the emotion. And they have to guess and they look. And so it's like role playing to start to get used to it, to getting things right. So that, and the purpose of this is so they can assess what's going on in the environment. So let's see how well you do with it. So I want you to take a partner next to you. One of you decides who's number one. That person is going to role play the emotion. The other person does number two. You're going to guess the emotion. All right? So just say 1 and 2. So who's going to role play and who's going to guess? Now, the person who's doing the guessing, I want you to close your eyes now. Close your eyes and do not open them until I tell you. Okay? Keep them closed, keep them closed, keep them closed until I tell you. The people who are doing the role play, this is the emotion you're going to role play. Okay, open your eyes. Role play the emotion.
Overglad. Ja. Excitement, ja. Godt ansigt udtryk. Meget entusiastisk. Ja, det kan man godt se, du har et meget udtryksfuldt ansigt.
Okay. How did you do? Did they get hands up if they guessed? Okay. Keep your hands up for a minute. Only keep your hands up if they guessed quickly, if they guessed immediately. Okay, so you guys were very good at demonstrating it, but it can be hard, can't it? So some of you didn't quite get it right. So in getting it right, we'd need to practice and work on that in recognizing the emotion. Now you're going to switch over. Okay, so now this time the role player closes their eyes. Close your eyes. Keep them closed.
Okay.
And this is the emotion the other person is going to play. Okay? Go ahead. Open your eyes.
Kærlighed. All of it. Love. I disse coronatider er det ret svært.
Okay.
Kysset og krammet dig.
Okay. I know it's exciting. All right. I want to know, hands up, how many of you they got it right? Or not so good at this one, Danish people. And how many put your hand down if you, keep your hand up if they guessed quickly and hands down if they didn't. Oh, dearie me, you Danes, you've got to work on your love look, you know?
You gotta work on your love look.
Okay.
Det gør vi, starter vi på i morgen på kontoret. Love look.
Okay, quickly we'll do one other thing. So at the end of each session. So some of these sessions, this is the fun part that I'm showing you because I figured after me talking for an hour, you'd need a bit of an uplift. But I think as well, because some of the sessions are very heavy, and we did feel that we needed to lighten it up a bit at the end of the sessions, because we want people to walk out of the sessions feeling okay about it. But it's heavy but interesting. Okay, we still keep their interest, but. So we end up with dilemmas. And the idea of the dilemmas is to improve critical thinking and social perspective taking, because people argue about opinions, not facts. And it's also thinking about being able to take somebody else's perspective is very important in getting along with people and improving your social competence. It's about being able to see the other side of it, even if you don't agree with it. All right, so this is the idea of the dilemmas. We get them to take a perspective that may not be one that they personally endorse. So, and we have some quite heavy ones, and there's some quite light, funny ones. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of the lighter ones, but it depends on it depends on how the session goes. You can choose what type of dilemma. There's a whole load that we give them at the end, and actually throughout the group they keep a running total of who's winning the dilemmas. I put them in teams, 2 separate teams. So, for example, this isn't a dilemma. Your friend has saved up all her money and spent a week's wages on a new dress. You think it makes her look really fat. Do you tell her the truth, or do you tell her she looks lovely? What did you say? You tell her who would tell her that she looks really fat? Well, now, but what we do, the women would tell her she looks really fat. The men wouldn't. Hands up if you're a man who would tell her that she looks right. Would you seriously, you would tell her the truth that she looks really? You wouldn't. Okay.
Definitely not.
Are there any men that will admit to doing that? Yeah. Okay. I do online therapy. You can contact me. I can give you my cards. But what we do is we put them into groups, and they have to debate it, and they debate it, and they go through it, and they debate it, and they decide, and then they argue. You get them to argue and cross-argue with each other. And it takes them a while to get used to it, especially if they're arguing for something that they don't agree with. But it's about taking a different perspective, okay? So some of them are about disclosure. Some of them are about stealing things. So, it's they cover a broad range of topics. So in the RCT, in the Iceland community, and these were people just referred from community services for ADHD who went to do this study. At 3-month follow-up, we had a large treatment effect, significant improvement in global impression of functioning as rated by their doctors who were blind to the condition, to whether they were in the treatment arm or the control arm. Effects for ADHD symptoms, include inattention and hyperactive impulsivity, anxiety, depression, and also emotional control, antisocial behavior, social functioning. And this one at the end, which is the rate scale, and the total of the rate scale is highly associated with quality of life. So much improvement that end. And then this is more, and when we had a larger sample, we looked at the rate scale with ADHD symptoms, social functioning, emotional control, and antisocial behavior, even though none of them had been referred for antisocial behavior. They weren't, and these were not prisoners. But so it goes to show how perhaps endemic it is in some individuals with an improvement in antisocial perspectives and behavior. Well, the Danish study, the report is available, is out in Danish, as you know, and I've got it in most of it in English. But the findings essentially were post-treatment versus treatment as usual group in terms of the short-term outcomes. That was immediately post-treatment. There was significant improvement in Denmark from this study in ADHD symptoms, social functioning, emotional control, and a reduction in anxiety, depression, and anger. Perceived improvement in quality of life and personal locus of control. That's great. That's immediately post completing the group. Most of these outcomes were sustained at 3-month follow-up, and some further improved. And that's one of the things that we found in Iceland, that post follow-up and the outcomes can further improve. The treatment effects are often stronger. And I think this is because the skills that they've developed, they're continuing to use them, and the improvements coming. So it's sort of a cumulative effect. They don't forget this program. Functional outcomes were assessed at 6 and 12 months by comparing those who were engaged in the group with matched controls that were taken from your registry data. I think it's wonderful you have all this registry data. We don't have it, but I think it's fantastic. You can do so much with it. And that, like, do you know, I was jumping up and down when I read this. The improved engagement in constructional activities, better educational outcomes, better occupational outcomes, and a reduction in cost to the government in terms of social security benefits. I mean, that's what we want. You know, like, how meaningful is it for a person with ADHD to say, well, you got 3 points better on an ADHD scale? You know, this is what they want to know. Well, I passed this exam and I can get a job. Like, you know, this is what's really meaningful for them. And it was interesting because there was also an increase in accident and emergency visits at this that was identified from the registry. That went up. Interesting. So, you know, are we making them anxious and unwell by engaging in this program? Or probably what is happening is it's showing improvement in locus of control, taking responsibility for yourself, recognizing that their mental health perhaps isn't very well, or they've had an accident and they're not just going to carry on or go to bed, they're going to go and get help. It's improvement in locus of control and in self-care. So, you know, I think these are very positive findings. And the quote from one of them, this one of the people who attended the program, a man, I think, said, overall, I feel that I've become a different man. I've become so much more down to earth and happier inside. I can handle everyday life better. I'm more calm. My spontaneity and my impulses are not there in the same way. The exercise Stop and Think, I really took that one to heart. In my work, I'm the kind of person who takes on a lot of responsibility, but then when it gets to be too much, it's really hard for me. So it's important just to stop and not explode. I practice that a lot, and I feel that I'm succeeding more and more often. That's nice, isn't it? That's nice to hear. And the thing that I think that is nice about working with people with ADHD, men and women, is that they are engaging. They can be challenging, it can be difficult, but they are engaging, and they're such fun people to work with, and they love this program. They're creative. They love the opportunity to brainstorm and think of as many different reasons why they should tell the person that they look fat, or that brainstorm all the reasons and then argue about, no, you can't say that. And what happens in these dilemmas is they often refer to another dilemma that's been done in the past. What? You tell her you're fat and you're the person that ran over the rabbit the other day. You know, like things that they draw on these things and they really get into it. And they're a lot of fun. And I think lots of people don't like the word resilience. I get that on Twitter so much. Just don't like resilience. I don't understand that. I have to say, I'm sorry if you're one of the people who doesn't like the word resilient, because I think people with ADHD are resilient. They will try things. They will switch. They'll switch very quickly. They'll try something new. Rarely will they say no. They get very enthusiastic and excited. And what you've got to do is you've got to capture that, harness it, and keep them in that moment before they lose it and go off to something else or someone else who's even more exciting than you are. So it's, you know, and it's a resilience. They will try. They're like bouncing balls. And I love working with people with ADHD. I learn so much from them. And that's so even now with my mind mapping, it's all come from my clients and me adapting things so I can figure out how I can help them the best. But anyway, so that's sort of it. This is my website where I have loads of resources. Please, you know, find it. And I have a YouTube channel. And I think it's a great long thing. You'd never like write it, but I found if you just put in Dr. Susan Young YouTube, it will come up, and you will actually find the female consensus that I did earlier this morning is actually on YouTube. So if you want to watch it all over again for your sins, then you will find it on YouTube, and plus others. There's criminal justice consensus, talk about substance misuse. I put the stuff on there. Thank you for having me, and I hope I see you all again in the not too last time I was here 6 years ago, so I hope it's not so long again. Thank you.
Thank you.